Hello, welcome to Color 101 in DaVinci Resolve. In this crash course, I'm going to show you all the basics of the color tab so you can start working on your projects today. So let's get right into it. So when you first open the color tab, which you can do by clicking down here or simply hitting Shift-6 on the keyboard, this is what you'll see, the default layout. So I'm going to go through this top to bottom. So here on the top left, we can see the gallery, which you can enable or disable simply by clicking on it. In this space, we're able to save stills from our grading and apply them to other clips, or compare a previous grading. So let's say you made some changes to the color here, and you want to save this grading to apply it to another clip, or simply to compare it to the original one. Then all you have to do is right-click the image, and then grab still. And here it is. Right beside the gallery, we have LUTs, or lookup tables, which are basically presets of color that you can apply to your clips. And here you can find a bunch of them, and if you scroll through them, you'll see on the viewer how it'll look on your clip. Here we have the media pool, which is the same as the edit page, and you won't need it much. What you'll be using the most is the clips. Now this is a lot more useful than the timeline. This feature displays the clips with a little thumbnail with all the information of the clip, like the codec, the layer of the timeline it's placed, and right here you have a little box. When it's grayed out, it means your clip has no grading. But if you make some changes, you'll see a kind of rainbow will appear. That means you have a graded clip. Here on the top right, we have the timeline, which is, well, a little timeline that shows you where your clips are in the timeline. I myself don't use it that much, but it might be good for knowing what clip is selected on the timeline. Here, we can enable or disable the nodes. Yes, color is a node-based tool, so you'll basically apply your grading into the nodes, and you can use as many nodes as you want. You have a few types of nodes, like serial nodes, parallel nodes, but I'm not gonna dive too deep inside it. For now, all you have to know is that you can add more nodes simply by hitting Option or Alt and then S on the keyboard, like this. Here we have the effects, and they work pretty much like the edit page. You can search for effects like blur, keen, and much more. Here we've got our main viewer, where we can see all our grading process, and there's a bunch of things we can do here. For instance, we can enable the split screen, and this tool helps you compare two or more different things. For example, if you click here and select the still grades, you can open your gallery, and you'll see it's comparing your original clip with your graded still. Here we've got the image wipe, which is also a comparing tool, but with a wipe, so you can play around with it to compare gradings. Here you can see the timeline you're working on, so if you have multiple timelines, you can choose between them by clicking on this arrow right here and then changing your timeline. This little rainbow right here is the bypass color grades. So if you do some grading, you can disable it and enable again to see what you've done. Here we have the expand tool, which you can use to make the viewer larger, and you can go back simply by clicking on it again. Here we have the highlight, which shows only the parts of the image that are selected when you use like the qualifier, for example, which is a tool I'll show you in a moment. Now down here we have the actual color grading tools, and I'm gonna go through the most important ones. This is the camera raw. It lets you play around with raw clips. There are clips recorded by cameras such as Blackmagic or Red. These are the primaries, or color wheels. Here you can manipulate the colors, contrast, brightness, and pretty much everything you want from the image. Here we have the curves. Now this is a very powerful tool which you'll be using a lot. So here you have a lot more precision when you're working with your lighting. So the left bottom part of this curve are the shadows, and the top right is the highlights. So if you turn this down, the image gets darker, and if you turn this up, the image gets brighter. Here we have the qualifier, which is a tool that helps you make a selection to any color of the image. Here we've got the masks, which are used for isolating a part of the image. This is the tracker. Here's where you can track the masks you make. For example, let's say I want to make a mask right here. Now I want to track this movement. Then I'll go to the tracker and track it forward and reverse. And the color tab has a really great tracker. It's amazing how efficiently it works. Here we have the magic mask, which is also a very powerful tool if you have the studio version of Resolve. With this, you can simply make a stroke, and the AI will know what part of the image you want to isolate. This is great for color grading only a specific part of the image. Here we've got the blur. So in here, you can increase the blur or sharpen the image if you've got a blurry one. Here we've got the key, which is basically the opacity of the node, so you can make your grading softer or harder on each node. Here we've got the sizing, which is pretty much what the inspector does inside the edit tab. I actually never use it myself, but it's good to know it's there. Here on the bottom right, we've got the keyframes, where you can animate pretty much anything you do in the color tab, and here you've got the scopes. This is something you'll be using a lot. Now this displays all the information about the image, shadows, highlights, if the image is clipping or not, and you can pop it out by clicking on this expand tool right here. So if you have another monitor, you can simply place it there and keep looking at the scopes every time you make an adjustment to the image. Here you have the information, which shows you all the data of the clips in your timeline. And that's pretty much all the basics of the interface of the color tab. Next, we're gonna dive into the color wheels. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on part 2.